I view that as NFL scouts and GMs get to know him, I think he'll hit it out the park as far as just being a NFL quarterback and somebody that can be the face of a franchise.
Welcome in for another episode of the TDN100 October edition. My name is Ray Garvin here for the Draft Network. I am joined by our talented scouts, Keith Sanchez, Joe Marino, Kyle Krabs, and Damian Parson. In this episode, I'm excited. We all should be excited to learn about a prospect who made his debut in the top 100, and he debuted at number 40. As we look across the NFL landscape right now, one of the things we continue to talk about is the poor quarterback play. So we're looking in the college ranks for a prospect to step up and be able to assume one of those roles in the NFL in the near future. And today we are going to talk about Washington State's redshirt sophomore or third-year quarterback transfer from Incarnate Word, Cam Ward, 6'2", 220 pounds on the season, almost 2,000 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, and a QBR of 52. Cam Ward did not only debut in our top 100, but in Kyle Krabs' most recent 2023 NFL mock draft, he was a top 20 pick to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So it's only right we give the floor to Kyle Krabs. Talk to us about Cam Ward, his debut into the top 100, and what you think about this young quarterback prospect.
Traits on traits. He is so physically gifted as a thrower of the football, and the transition to Washington State, he did okay against Idaho, and then they had to go to Wisconsin and play Jim Leonhard, and that's a tough game, and you could tell they kind of had the training wheels on. But as the last month has unfolded, and the Oregon game in particular, Cal, USC, Oregon State, the last month's worth of games, you've really seen the aggressiveness ramp up for him, and it's his ability to challenge all levels of the field, regardless of presence of pass rush. If he's got free runners in his face, his ball handling skills is one of his best traits. And as we continue to see more and more of the RPO type offenses come into play in the NFL, these guys who could stick the ball in the belly of a back and then make a decision that I'm going to immediately pull the ball and I'm going to get that thing out. And I got to throw to my swing route, or I'm going to throw to that screen pass, or I'm going to throw to that glance pattern coming over the middle of the field. He's really good and really accurate in those situations. And I just think that the trends of the league meeting his skill set gives us this natural intersection for a player who's going to need time. And you're going to understand he's going to make mistakes. He's made mistakes throughout the course of some of the games that he's played for Washington State to this point in the season, but he just is so physically gifted as a thrower of the ball, and he's a better athlete than what his numbers would suggest. He's taken a lot of sack yardage that has him in negative rushing yards for the season. I'm just really excited to see how he continues to grow as a player, but you see NFL teams bet on traits all the time, and this guy's got traits for days.
DP, one of the things that I've learned early in my tenure here at the Draft Network is you can't stand quarterbacks that don't have tools, that have small arms, that can't move around. You need something that's more modern with today's NFL times. Talk to me about your sort of evaluation of Cam Ward. Do you think this guy can be a first-round pick? Does he have the tools and traits to be a difference maker at the next level?
You're right, Ray. I don't like kickers. I do not like kickers, Ray. So I like more toolsy quarterbacks. But everything that Kyle said is correct, man. One of the things that I love about Cam Ward and his traits is the arm angles, the arm slots, right? Like when you watch him, he can throw from different platforms with his arm. And and don't quote me when I say this, it's Patrick Mahomes-esque. I'm not calling him Patrick Mahomes, but it's similar to what we see with Mahomes and some of these other quarterbacks, man, to be able to fit passes into certain windows just by changing the arm slot, right? And Kyle talked about being able to, with the RPO and stuff, he's throwing passes where he doesn't always have to flip his hips or get his feet completely set in the right place, and he still gets the ball out on those glance routes quickly, on time, and efficiently. So, yes, I absolutely think he has the traits, tools. He has the physical measurements that you look for. Since people have discrimination against short kings and midget quarterbacks, he has the 6'2", 220 frame. So he has those things as well as the traits as Kyle has perfectly put out there. So I agree, man. He has everything you want.
Joe, can I ask you how shocked you were when you saw everything put together and you look down the board and you're looking at the top 50, you're looking at the top 40, and then boom, there's Cam Ward. How do you feel about him being our 40th overall prospect in this class? And do you think, because when I'm looking at 40, in my mind, I'm thinking this is a top quarterback. He might not be Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, but top 40 prospect. How shocked were you see Cam Ward there? And what are your thoughts on him, the player?
Well, after listening to Kyle talk about him for the last month, I figured he'd get into the top 100. But, I mean, like you said there, Ray, I mean, this is top 50. This is kind of inching closer and closer to the first round range. And, you know, look, I think we've really done well to this point in the conversation to highlight the traits and the skill set and thinking about the offense that you can run and how much is on the table and how much you can do with Cam Ward to put a lot of stress on defenses, right? And that gets us excited. And, you know, I think where you might want to have some level of pause is just letting that resume play out, right? But, you know, we're talking about a guy that has 6 starts now in the Pac-12. He threw a lot of footballs at Incarnate Word. This isn't like an under-repped player. We just haven't seen him yet at the Power 5 level, but that resume is expanding. And like Kyle said, it's expanding and getting better week after week. And he's really taking ownership of the offense and settling in. And you love to see how he's been able to produce and how they've leaned more and more on him and what the results have been to this point. And so I just get really excited about the overall package here and what he can get done. And as we see more, we like more, and the arrow is absolutely pointing up. So it's just about expanding that resume, maybe being a little bit more careful with the football, right? Get a little bit of a risky player at times, but I think that's all part of him maturing and developing and learning what he can and cannot do. And at the end of the day, you have a high tools player that gives you a chance to really run a dynamic offense. And, you know, we got a chance to meet him at Steve Clarkson's QB retreat in California. And, you know, you really feel even better about him when you layer together the film that we've watched this year and the person that we met in California. Feels like he could be a real dude, and I'm excited for how things have unfolded so far this year.
Keith, I want to ask you, from just a high-level overview of how we view quarterback prospects transitioning from the collegiate game to the NFL, how much of a Pac-12 bias do you think will be on Cam Ward? Because, listen, not a lot of people are staying up late to watch Washington State versus Fresno State, Washington State versus Arizona. How much of that do you think is going to come into factor and come into play with Cam Ward and his evaluation process? And just early on, what are your initial thoughts on him as potentially a top 5 quarterback in this class?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to initial evaluation, I think that there will be a factor, right? Like NFL scouts, GMs, they will talk about the Pac-12 factor or lack of defense that they play in that conference. But I think, like Joe hinted on, right, and he almost took my point, when we got to meet him in person, me, Joe, and Kyle, you become comfortable with the person. And then you intertwine that with what Kyle said, right, being comfortable on film. You realize that this is just not a Pac-12 quarterback, right? He's not a guy that's just a victim of the system, right? It's not just him playing in the air raid system. It's him being confident, him understanding things, him wanting to get better, him being very self-aware. And when we talk about where we met him at, right, there were other top quarterbacks there. There was a Bryce Young, a CJ Stroud, but guess what? He was the small school guy at the time, but he never looked shook or rattled. He got right in there. He got into the mix. We had the opportunity to interview him, and he looked extremely comfortable. And I bring up the interview because we know that would be part of the process throughout the draft process and throughout the entirety of it. Man, he just came off as a cool, calm, collective guy. Like I said, that was very self-aware. That I view that as NFL scouts and GMs get to know him, I think he'll hit it out the park as far as just being a NFL quarterback and somebody that can be the face of a franchise.
Keith, what does Cam Ward need to do in order to enter your next iteration of a 23 mock in the first round? What does he need to do?
I like how you threw that to me, Ray. Nah, man, I think it's just seeing more of them, right? And I just talked about the Pac-12 Nomer and just seeing more of them, more big time moments, more big time games. I think this time around I played it a little bit more patient than my colleagues, my guys. But I definitely see why there's hype around his name. While Kyle Krabs has been talking about him since early September because he's an extremely talented guy.
DP, what about you? What does he need to do to crack your top 32 in your next mock?
Oh man, similar to Keith. I just want to get more eyes on him, see more of his play, see the development. Take care of the football. You talk about 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. He had 10 only last year. I want to just make sure that he protects the football and does everything to put his team in the right position to win. So I'm just going to be really in tune, watching, try to stay up as late as possible. To watch some of that Pac-12 after dark.
Joe, I'm going to ask you, is he close to that top 32 for you, or has he still got some things he needs to work on before he cracks your top 32?
Well, I think I might have the next mock draft due at thedraftnetwork.com, so we'll find out soon enough on my appetite there. But I think as you survey the league, you're going to see the need, you're going to see the demand, you're going to see a sensible opportunity to slot him in and at least have a logical fit, right? And I think, Kyle put him to Tampa Bay, where that's perfect, right? A team that's not going to be in the top 10, but is in need of a quarterback, right? And you're going to have other situations just like that. So I think need and demand is going to be in favor for Cam Ward. And, I think he'll have a spot. I think he'll have a spot in my next first round.
There it is. You heard it. Joe's is coming next, so stay tuned for that. Kyle, we're going to finish up with you. Put a bow on this thing for me. Cam Ward, the NFL talent. Is he plug and play, or do you still think he's a guy that probably would be best served sitting behind a veteran for 4 games, 6 games, a year? Where are you at with him? You got him in round 1 in your most recent mock. What do you think his actual outlook is in the NFL?
Yeah, I think if you play him early, he's going to be a player that does have kind of that school of hard knocks and has to learn some hard lessons the hard way by doing. But one thing that I would say is we just saw the NFL take a toolsy thrower of the football who was a plus athlete at number 3 overall and trade 3 first-round picks to get him in Trey Lance. Trey Lance played at the FCS level for 17 games. I would be remiss to not mention that Cameron Ward is a player who won the 2021 Jerry Rice Award. He started 19 games at Incarnate Word on the FCS level. He averaged 363 passing yards a game, 71 touchdowns to 14 interceptions. And now he started 7 games at the FBS level and played in a Pac-12 schedule. I mean, he's got 3x the pass attempts is what Trey Lance did right now. And I think he's a comparable thrower of the ball. I think his resume is more complete than that. So I think you take that into consideration. And as long as you're not just going to throw him into the deep end, or you're a team that doesn't have a lot of talent, you're going to ask him to uplift the players around him. He's got all the potential, but you do have to do it right and put him in a position to further acclimate himself to an offense and then learn on the job and learn so responsibly so that you can continue to build on what is very clearly a confident and talented young player.
There it is. Confident, talent, tools, traits, and Cameron Ward has a massive game. He's got a week off, but in 2 Thursdays from now against Utah, he's going to have another opportunity to put more stuff on tape, some more of his skill set on wax. But make sure you're tapped into everything that we're doing over here at the Draft Network. For Joe, Kyle, Keith, Dame, and our entire scouting team, we appreciate you watching this one on Cam Ward. Let us know below what you think about Cam Ward, the prospect, the talent, the NFL future, and stay tapped in for everything that we're doing at the Draft Network. For Ray Garvin and the Scouts, I'm out. Y'all have a good one. Peace.